Hi, Youngstown City families. It's me, Mrs. Roseck from Taft Elementary, and I'm glad to be back to read to you again. I've been excited to get into it with you. So let me tell you what book I've chosen. I chose The Emperor's New Clothes. Now, The Emperor's New Clothes is considered a classic. It was originally written by Hans Christian Andersen in 1837. Hans Christian Andersen may be someone that you recognize. He also wrote The Little Mermaid, Princess and the Pea, The Ugly Duckling, and Thumbelina. And they've been retold by others like Disney so that we've come to know his stories. So this book is actually not the original. It's a retelling as well. It's a retelling by Catherine Solly, and the illustrator is Deborah Allwright. So there's a few things that I want to talk about before we actually get into the book. The first one is I want to talk about some of the characters. I would like to talk about the main characters in this story. And it's important to think about who they are and what kind of position they have in the kingdom and how people treat them differently. So the first person is a tailor. There's actually two tailors in this story. A tailor is a noun because it's a person, and it's someone who sews. So take a look at the tailor. I gave you an example sentence with tailor in it. The tailor will make her dress for prom fit perfectly. Take a look at the tailor. You can see he's kind of in plain clothing. He's holding his needle. He's got his pins in his mouth. He's got his measuring tape and his pin cushion down here, his scissors. He's hard at work. So he's a worker in a kingdom. And like I said, there's two of them in the story. The second main character I want to talk about is the chief minister. Now, chief minister is a noun. And I looked up what chief ministers do. In many different governments, it's different. But in the story we're going to read today, we're going to just say the chief minister is a person who is like an assistant to the emperor. So in this story, the example that comes out is the chief minister found the tailor that would make the emperor a new outfit. So just kind of somebody who helps the emperor out and kind of takes commands from him. And then the last main character that I want to talk about is the emperor himself. So you can notice by the way the emperor is dressed, he's fancier. He has jewels. He has a crown. He's wearing a cloak. And we'll talk about that word in a minute too. So emperor is actually a noun. For a definition, I just gave you a synonym, a word that means the same. It's a king. So we would usually use the word king, whereas here in this story, they call him the emperor. And the sentence I gave you is the emperor declared there would be a new holiday. So as you can see, he has the power to say, hey, today's a special day, and everybody listens to him. So that's kind of important. And then there's two words I want to go over real quickly. The first one we just kind of briefly looked at for a second. The word is cloak. It's one syllable. Cloak. It's a noun because it's a thing. So it's a jacket or a loose fitting overgarment. And by overgarment, I just mean a piece of clothing that goes over another outfit. So you have on a shirt and pants and you throw on a cloak over top of it. It's an overgarment. Okay? So when we get there, remember that word. And then the second word that I picked out that I thought needed some clarity was vain. V-A-I-N. One syllable, vain. It is an adjective. It describes a person, place, or thing. In this book, it's going to describe a person. A person who is vain, who is one that is overly concerned about the way they look. I mean, it's good for you to pay attention to, hey, I need to comb my hair and take a bath today. But some people are vain. They're very concerned about how they look and being perfect and what other people think about the way they look. So I also wanted to bring to your attention that there are more words that sound like V-A-I-N. So vain is a homophone. It has a homophone. If you look at the word homophone, H-O-M-O at the beginning of any word means the same. And then phone means sound. So it has a word that has the same sound but a different meaning. So if you look right here, V-E-I-N is a homophone of our word that we're looking at in our story. V-E-I-N are the little tubes in your body that carry blood, your veins. You know, they poke you with a needle to draw blood. But we're talking about V-A-I-N today, being very concerned, overly concerned about the way you look. Okay? So with that, I think that we're ready to start now that we know our characters and some of the words that might have hung us up if we hadn't talked about them. So let's get started with The Emperor's New Clothes, as retold by Catherine Solly. There's our emperor looking over his kingdom on his horse. Once there was an emperor who was very proud of how he looked. More than anything, he loved new clothes. He bought the finest silk and satin, velvet and lace, and he kept the royal tailors busy day and night making new clothes. They even made matching outfits for the emperor's little dog. The royal closets were overflowing. Every morning, the emperor would admire himself in the mirror and say, "Aren't I the best dressed emperor in the whole wide world?" No matter what they really thought, everyone around him would bow and say, "Yes, Your Majesty, you are." Every year, the emperor led a royal parade through the city wearing his very best clothes. But one year, he decided that even his best clothes would not do. "This year," he told the tailors, "I want to wear an outfit so splendid no one will ever forget it." The tailors worked day and night making the best clothes they could fashion. They brought the emperor piles and piles of new clothes to try on, but nothing pleased him. "These clothes are much too ordinary. I must have something much more magnificent." Look at his little dog down here, turning her head away, turning her nose up to those new clothes. The tailors kept trying, but the emperor was still not happy. At last he told his chief minister, "Find me some new tailors who can make truly magnificent clothes." The chief minister set out at once. As he walked through the marketplace, he overheard two men talking to a well-dressed couple. "We are the best tailors in the land," the first man was saying. "Yes," the other agreed. "We make clothes so fine that no one in the whole world has ever seen anything like them." The chief minister rushed over. "You must come with me to the emperor's palace," he told the tailors. The chief minister brought the two tailors to the emperor. "Can you make clothes that are truly magnificent?" the emperor asked them. "Oh, yes, Your Majesty," they replied. "When people see our clothes, they never forget them." "Well, what is so special about your clothes?" asked the emperor. "They are made from a rare and wonderful cloth," the first tailor explained, "and only we know how to weave it." "That sounds perfect!" exclaimed the emperor. He gave the tailors a bag of gold and promised them more when the clothes were finished. The two tailors were given their own workshop, where no one would disturb them. They quickly went to work. A few days later, the chief minister came to see how they were doing. The tailors seemed to be very busy, but the chief minister could not see any cloth. "Our cloth is fine and delicate," the first tailor explained. "See how it shimmers in the light?" "Oh, only a fool cannot see this beautiful cloth," said the second tailor. The chief minister did not want the tailors to think he was a fool, so he said, "Yes, it's very beautiful indeed." The tailors pretended to snip off a piece of cloth, then carefully folded it up. They handed it to the chief minister, who took it straight to the emperor. "Only a fool cannot see this wonderful cloth," said the chief minister, handing the invisible cloth to the emperor. The emperor did not want anyone to think he was a fool, so he quickly said, "Yes, it's the most beautiful cloth I've ever seen." "Give the tailor more money and tell them to work more quickly." A week later, the chief minister went to see the tailors again. They seemed to be hard at work, cutting and pinning their invisible cloth. "What do you think of the cloak we're making?" asked the first tailor. "Only a fool would not be able to see how beautiful it is," said the second tailor. Because he did not want to look like a fool, the minister replied, "It is the most splendid cloak I've ever seen. I'm sure the emperor will be pleased." At last, the day of the parade arrived. The emperor eagerly went to his dressing room where the tailors were waiting. Very carefully, the tailors helped the emperor put on his wonderful new clothes. Of course, the emperor could not see any clothes at all, but he didn't want the tailors to think he was a fool, so he said, "These are the most magnificent clothes I've ever worn." Smiling, he admired himself in the mirror. Look at his little dog. Wearing nothing at all, the emperor made his way down the grand staircase, through the great hall, and out to the palace courtyard. Everyone bowed as the emperor passed. No one noticed that he wasn't wearing any clothes. The parade made its way through the city. Crowds of people stood in the streets, cheering and clapping, waiting for the emperor to appear. When they saw the emperor at last, they could not believe their eyes. The people began to whisper to one another, but no one had the courage to say anything out loud. One little boy and his sister made their way to the front of the crowd. As soon as they saw the emperor, they began to laugh and point at him. "Look," they giggled, "the emperor has no clothes on." And everyone, even the emperor, knew it was true. Filled with shame, the emperor made his way back to the palace to get dressed. "I've been very foolish," he said to the chief minister. "If my appearance had not been so important to me, I would never have let myself be cheated by those two tailors. I will never be so vain about my clothes again." He was true to his word, and he was a much happier emperor from that day on. The little dog says, the end. There he is in his kingdom again. So now that I've read the book to you, I have two questions for you to talk about with someone in your house that hopefully watched with you or that you can get to watch. The first one is I want you to think about, what's the author's message? What do you think this story is meant to tell us, to teach us? Think about that. And then the second question I have is, do you think the king changed? So if you think that he did not change from the beginning to the end, he was the same person, then you're going to say he's a static character. He didn't change. If you do think he changed, then I want you to tell somebody that you're with right now that he's a dynamic character. And tell me why you think that. Either way, he's dynamic if he did change. He's static if he didn't. I want you to explain to somebody in your household with you that why you believe that, whether he's static or dynamic. I've had fun, guys. I can't wait till the third one. I'll be talking to you again later. Take care.